The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Jeff.
And I'm CJ.
And it is Wednesday in the Riv. And boy, it is getting crazy now. So I guess we start as we know we always do with our statistics.
People want yesterday's COVID numbers, huh?
I guess.
Always drive me crazy. Let me see here. And please remember, people, I post these numbers daily right after 4 o'clock when they become available for us. So that's always a good thing. There was 1,042 positive cases yesterday in Fall River, up 38, still holding at 22 fatalities. Bristol County has 6,080 positive cases, and there are 87,925 statewide. Some of the statewide data is trending in the right direction, but Fall River's, I guess, isn't, because it looks like Fall River's numbers are going up. But we, as we've said in previous shows, that can be expected with the increase in testing. You've now got Rite Aid doing it. You've got Primacare doing it. You've got South Coast doing it. So there's a lot of testing going on. So we're going to see a slow increase in the number of positive cases as these numbers come in. But again, it's the fatalities we need to look at as well. How many fatalities are we getting? And we've spiked pretty much from the days when it was only 2 or 3, like every couple of weeks. So it's going to be interesting to see how this goes for us. I'm going to keep an eye out for the next 14 days to watch the trending. It scares me a little bit because other states that have already opened, and it hasn't been 14 days yet, but they've had some major increases in the thousands at a time. Now, that doesn't mean those people got the COVID right after they opened up their state. That's highly unlikely. But that shows that there's a lot of cases out there that people don't know about. And it's the same here in Fall River and in Massachusetts. There are a lot of cases out there that we don't know about. And until we get those testing results in, we don't know. And with some of the labs delaying the reporting of their results, it's making it a little more difficult for us to get accurate numbers.
Yeah, and as I said, this is to the data is really not super accurate because, as you said, the testing has lagged way behind the disease. We're testing more people, and these people, many of them were previously infected, and we have people who have been infected, got better without much of a problem, and it's going to take years for this to get over. But they're all obsessed with data. That's to keep their narrative going, so they can keep us prisoners and not allow us to be free. That the government finally got what it wished. They were always in total control, but they pretended to allow us to have some kind of voice in decisions. And now they just tell us what to do. We're like a bunch of cattle.
That's
and
it.
They can tell us when to leave your house, when to go, where to go. Hey, listen, Rhode Island opened up a strip joint. There's a lot of controversy. And the guy was going to have a dance. Why? They put some outdoor seating and they're going to serve food. So they let a strip joint open, but they can't open gyms. This is, look, it's absurd. We know about the virus. We know what we have to do to avoid getting the virus, as we said on a previous show. It's time for us to take back our governments. And this has become actually I'm going into a segue, CJ, and you know that. This has allowed our governments, our incompetent, spend without any regard for the taxpayer governments in many states and cities like Fall River to get bailed out. Because our mayor is now looking to use the COVID-19 money to plug our gap. You think the city council will ask how we managed to always have gaps? When last year when they went over the budget, they said everything was fine, we had surplus money, yet we have a gap. You think you'll ever find out how we got here so we don't repeat that mistake again? We had an $8 million deficit with Flanagan. We pretty well knew where that came from, lack of preparation. But I never hear the city council grilling Mary Sahadi, and yesterday she's looking to increase the water rates, not really because of the water. Because she said, well, debt service. Well, we never pay any debt off. Does my memory serve me correctly, CJ?
Yes.
At what time did Mary Sahadi say, we don't even pay the damn debts, we just pay the interest?
I remember her saying that. I do remember her saying that. But, the interesting thing is that she keeps standing on the fact that the water department is its own enterprise fund, and therefore it's a standalone fund, and they have to be self-supporting, which is true of enterprise funds. But at the last city council meeting, she said that they needed to build up their free cash so that they had a stabilization account. This meeting, it was, we're going to use all the stabilization account to offset the cost so we don't have to raise the water rates as high. And then Sean Kadim turned around and said, I would support a budget that puts aside $200,000 a year for a stabilization fund, which means that it's going to increase the water rate. And I understand we need a stabilization fund, but as was brought out at yesterday's meeting, we have a high proportion of people who are on limited income. And you better than anyone else, Chip, know what some of those limited income levels are, because a lot of the retirees from the city are really, they're even under $24,000 a year, if that. So
we have some under 12,000, very few, but we have some, and 60% of the retirees are making 15,000, 20,000 or less. So they don't have large incomes. And listen, CJ, you see this? The famous camouflage to track the taxpayer. Everything you just said is a Gerbilesque. You see, I created a new one. Gerbilesque. A Gerbilesque lie for the city to create methods to convince you that they need money. Nobody's ever figured out that no matter how much money we give them, they always run out of money, and so they have to come up with reasons. Enterprise funds are bullshit, okay? All these things are entities that come within the city's purview. For them to say they have to subsidize themselves means that they can carve them out and use them for reasons to increase fees to burden the taxpayer. It's like you saying, I'm in charge of healthcare in Hawaii, and I'm going to make the leper colony at Molokai a separate entity, and they're going to have to fund themselves. Well, when you start getting the medical bills for the leper colony in Molokai, you'll always need to get more money, won't you?
Yeah, I guess so.
Done. Wake up, people. Go down there and slap those counselors upside the head, because they don't know. They listen to this crap and they nod their heads and come up with, I'll vote for a budget that we keep $200,000 in stabilization fund. Well, where's that $200,000 going to come from? From your pocket and my pocket. Nobody ever asks how we got here. Nobody ever asks why we always end up with deficits. Periodically, every 4 or 5 years, we're facing a shortfall. Why? Because nobody's minding the store. All they do is spend, and they juggle money around. Enterprise funds are bullshit. It's a way for them to generate a reason to tax you. The water department's part of the city. The school department's part of the city. It's like the healthcare. Remember when they talked about how the school department was running over budget in healthcare?
Yeah.
Over budget in healthcare. No, they weren't. Because they're part of the follow-up letter when I couldn't get the information. In a very short time, I'm working on putting together all the documents now, and I'm going to send them all a packet. So if they tell you they have an excuse not to know what crap this is, they're lying to you. And next election, anybody who doesn't really look at this with a fine-tooth comb and demand that we get accurate numbers and demand that when there's a shortfall, explain it. Mary Zahadi tried that yesterday, but it was a con. Oh, there's an enterprise fund. Oh, it's debt service. Oh, it's this. No, let's look at our cumulative. This is a one giant organism, the city of Fall River. And when you begin to carve out things, there's even a term for it that they use in the healthcare industry. It's called adverse selection. And adverse selection occurs when you carve out high-risk people. Like if you tried to get everybody over 80 on a separate healthcare plan and didn't include the rest of the people in the city in order to balance the payments, which what you do in the healthcare industry, that is adverse selection because you're intentionally trying to inflate the price. There are ways to control prices. Healthcare, the larger the group, the more stable the premiums. So why do we fly in the face of what people do? You get more people in a plan, you get young, healthy people, older, sicker people, people in the middle, balanced premium. If you carve out the old people, they're going to be paying, they couldn't afford the healthcare payment. But what does the city do? We've carved out all these little departments. We pretend they're all separate entities. They're not. They're not. The city of Fall River has to be looked upon as an entity because that's what it is. And this is this really is pissing me off because it just never ends. And now we're going to use money to bail the city out that was here for the COVID virus. So we're being rewarded. The city is being rewarded for their lack of fiduciary responsibility, their lack of ability to control their damn spending. And now the feds are going to bail them out. But you know what the problem with this is? We're not going to get a COVID virus every 4 or 5 years, but we are going to get a deficit until one of these imbeciles that we call counselors start looking for reasons why this continues to happen. And I am done with this diatribe.
Well, I agree. I've got to say something though, that last night Michelle Dion and Leo Pelletier, and you know Leo Pelletier and I for some reason don't always get together on issues, but Leo Pelletier and Michelle Dion voted no on that water and sewer department budget, and I appreciate that vote because that shows that they're out for the people. And I was actually surprised that Linda Pereira voted yes. Sean Kadim didn't surprise me, but Linda Pereira did, because normally she's the first one to say no. And if that had happened, that would have been 3 votes, which would have meant they needed 2 more. And I think that if they had 3, they might have gotten at least 1 more vote from one of the newer city councilors. Trotley also surprised me a little bit with his yes vote. And a statement was made that, you know, they were elected to do a job for the right thing for the city of Fall River. No, you weren't. You were elected to serve the people of Fall River, not the company known as Fall River, but the people of Fall River. And if the people of Fall River are telling you, I don't want my water rates going up, I don't want my taxes going up, I don't want this, I don't want that, then you've got to make sure that those things happen. That's how you represent the people of Fall River. You are not here representing the corporation. And I understand that you want to do what's best for the entire group, the entire city. And by doing that, you have to sometimes do what's right for the corporation. But you're not doing right by the people who elected you. And the people who elected you should really take, notice of this and say, next election, I'm not giving this one a vote. I'm not giving that one a vote. I'm not giving this one a vote. Because they're not voting for me. They're voting for basically the system. And the system is wrong. The system is broken.
Apparently, whoever made that remark didn't read the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and our favorite part of the first Article 5, because they swore to uphold the Constitution of the state and the United States and the state Commonwealth of Massachusetts and all the ordinances of the city of Fall River. Well, our Commonwealth Constitution, which, by the way, preceded the American Constitution, the United States Constitution, clearly states that they are answerable to the people, not the city, as you said, CJ. They are answerable to us. They work for us, the taxpayer. When the taxpayer says no, it's no. That's it. And if this city, I mean, look, they're not that, they can't, nobody can be that stupid. Nobody can walk around Fall River and not know that we're one of the poorest cities in the state. We were at one time the poorest, but we're always at the bottom. We're in the bottom three, the top of the bottom three. And we're one of the poorest cities in the United States per capita. Yet they justify everything to say, well, it's for the good of Fall River. No, what makes Fall River good is when people begin to have money. Why did we have a stimulus package, you boneheads? Because it's people with money that create an economy and thereby create a healthy city. And all you ever do is agree to take money away, more and more and more money to people. And let's face it, our demographic isn't good. We got a whole bunch of people on welfare that don't care, and we got a whole bunch of retirees who are too poor to move away, and are now getting to the point where even though their mortgage is paid, they can't afford their taxes and fees, and they're going to lose their homes. And that's a travesty. It is a travesty, especially when no one took the time to ever find out how we get here. I have never heard Mary Tahati taken to task for telling them it was 8% for the health care when it was 5.7. And the PEC meeting proved it. And the only thing she didn't include, and that will be in my packet, by the way, the only thing she didn't include was the only part of the health care that is a guarantee. And I will show you it in writing, and it was submitted to the city in our monthly reports. The difference when you apply what she failed to, and I'll give you the number off the top of my head, even though it's not in front of me, and I haven't looked at it in a week or two. I'm putting it together. Without the rebates and stop losses, etc., one of the three city plans was running at 106%. In other words, 6% over budget. After they applied it, it was running 2% under budget. Do the math. How much is that? 6% to 8% difference, the impact. And of course, the other plans are running even lower. That's why we run under budget every year. So it is an absolute, but nobody ever called them. They listen to the bullshit and they just swallow it. Nobody ever takes them to task for intentionally misrepresenting numbers. Nobody ever asks them to sit down, and I'll tell you what, I'll go. I want a 2-day meeting to go over every single dime that was spent that moved us from a budget with a surplus last year at budget time to a $4.7 million gap deficit or whatever else you want to refer to it as. Because this is absolute crap. And they are disgraces as far as I'm concerned now. And I'm not talking about everybody. So the people like, and I know Michelle Dion's been doing quite good work. I have to give her credit, kudos, because I know she was out and about looking for compliance on something. And, she does her homework. And whether I agree or disagree with somebody, me they're not paying attention to the facts, but that's their prerogative. At least they sat down and listened. And at least if they asked a couple of questions on what I gave them, I would say, okay, they're at least making an attempt to represent me as a voter and as a taxpayer. But when they just sit there like bobbleheads, then then get out and they talk with all these things, and then what happens? Then they vote yes. Oh, I'll do it if we get $200,000. I gotta get yeah. And all they're doing is this. Come on. That's it. But I'll tell you, CJ, we're getting to the point now. If we get bailed out, it's like a sword of Damocles. It's going to happen a year after that. And I'm sure that the mayor's real happy because he won't have to really engage in any kind of belt tightening now because he just got bailed out. And
well, he hasn't been bailed out yet.
Yeah, but they're requesting from our liberal senators,
correct,
congressmen, that they can use it to plug up gaps that were created by their lack of fiduciary responsibility.
correct.
And the council, that gap was caused by nobody's mind in the store. But we're going to use money that was earmarked for disease to bail us out. Do you think that's prudent? It's like you set next year's budget on your lottery winnings this year.
Well,
hit the lottery every year.
Interestingly enough, they did come up with a plan for that money already that doesn't have to do with, filling in the gaps of our budget. It has to do with the fact that they're going to buy disinfecting equipment for our vehicles and for our emergency response vehicles and whatnot, which I think is important. Yeah. Especially seeing that we're sending our vehicles to Vic's car wash to have them clean and detail these vehicles. We don't have somebody in the police department or in the fire department. We don't have a mechanic or somebody who can do that, who can wash a truck or wash a police cruiser. Well, but that we have to send it out and hire a company to do it for top dollar. I think that's a problem. That's where our money's going, people. They're paying to have somebody wash your cars. They're paying to have somebody wash your trucks. And they're paying somebody to disinfect them when we can do it ourselves. Why don't we do it ourselves? Oh, I don't know. Because we're going to lay off people that do those type of things, but we're going to hire people that do nothing at high-end rates, and we never lay them off. This is what happens, people. This is what happens here in Fall River.
Well, it's really a sad commentary on their political astuteness. This is a new normal for people. The government's throwing money around. You think we should be, that's a con, and I will believe when we get all this stuff, and we'll overpay for it, and somebody who knows somebody will will sell it to us and make a profit. But if we do get it, we'll overpay. Now, why doesn't somebody with a modicum of political astuteness, instead of reaching out to our federal delegation to let us use money for what it wasn't given to us for, why don't they reach out and say, hey, why don't you guys propose that every city and town gets federal assistance in purchasing equipment that will probably be used forever now, disinfecting equipment, etc. That, we bought fire trucks for 50 years with federal money. And of course, the politicians here took credit for buying them, but it wasn't them. It was federal money. So why don't we look for federal money to get equipment that's going to be necessary for public safety and all city employees, whether it's in the government center or whether it's in a fire station or a police station? Why don't we get the money for all the sanitizing equipment and look for a grant? Look for something. Look for federal assistance, because this is something that's going to prevent further spread of a virus, and it will, if you have disinfecting equipment, it won't only work on the coronavirus, it'll work on everything. So obviously, but no, this is not what they do. They take money that they get and try to divert it like they do with the money. We saved $27 million by having the Canadian drug plan since its inception. and we've saved another 14 or 15 million in the shift of co-pays. So do the math. Somewhere we made $50 million more than we anticipated because of the hard work of the IAC and the PEC in securing these kinds of deals. Where did it go, CJ? I don't know, and I'm on a committee. I know that money came into the city of Fall River. Does anybody know where they spent it? I don't. I bet you the mayor doesn't. I bet you the city council doesn't know how much money we got, but they will when they get my packet.
Yeah.
But they will when they get my packet. And let's see if anybody asks the questions. Where did that money go? Like I said, let's bring them in. Let's have a review of where every single dollar was spent in every year. And I don't care if it takes 2 weeks. We deserve the answers.
I agree. I agree with you wholeheartedly. While we're speaking about insurance, a story appeared on Facebook yesterday, and I think it's interesting to basically see if it's true. And you may know. It says that there is a company called Partners Insurance Limited LLC that's applying for insurance here in Fall River, and the president of that company happens to be the mayor's cousin or the mayor's family member. That's Patrick Long. And also that company is owned by Bay Coast Bank, or as part of the Bay Coast family of financial services, who also now acts as a collection agent for the city of Fall River, as the mayor announced yesterday. Is any of this accurate, and what's going on?
Well, yeah, the PEC and IAC are looking at bids for stop loss insurance, which is insurance for, when any patient hits a certain amount, then the insurance company begins to pay the bills afterwards, and we do realize a lot of money from having stop loss when we have catastrophic illnesses. So we are looking at bids, and one of the bidders is Partners, and I believe that the individual is related to the mayor, which to me is always problematic when you have relatives. I think it's really, it may be, the perception, whether it's ethical or not, the perception should never be there. And I believe in the ethics law, they say even you should be careful of even perceptions. But that's not the issue. The other issue is the fact that it is part of Bay Coast, and we know that Bay Coast is now going to be collecting, and it looks like there's a maneuver to get it in. We all know that Bay Coast was involved intimately with the debt override. And I believe you checked into it and said that they're not charging for the service.
That's what the mayor said at yesterday's city council meeting. The mayor said that it's not costing the city a dime.
Well, you know something? You can urinate on my head, but don't try to convince me it's raining. There's no such thing as a free lunch. Nobody does anything for free, especially a bank that's becoming one of the largest banks, in the area. They have a whole bunch of financial services, and then again, is there a conflict there? Because you have someone who works for someone who's going to now take billing for the city, and they just all of a sudden popped in with a bid on
for insurance.
a contract.
Yeah.